personnel 420 and 20.
Number 20 is already influenced. It has to be changed. That's the amendment, so Tom? Or, sorry, Jamie?
No.
Joe?
I guess only one question I had. Thank you very much.
Jim?
They went over the different bill lists and all seems to be in order, so you guys can do it fine.
No. Have my questions answered. Thank you, Judge.
Ditto. Okay. Can I have a motion, in number 2?
So moved.
Second.
We're good. We're good.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Business ops number 3 on page 2. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Susan?
Second.
Discussion. Question?
I didn't know that I would be starting this discussion at later this time, so you're probably all grown when I said those, but,
No.
you know.
No, just after the second one.
Sorry, at 2 o'clock this afternoon, they were legitimate, so I.
They're still legitimate.
Okay, I guess my question is, there's a Baker and Taylor purchasing books in the library. That spurred my question. At what point at what point does the library kind of give an accounting of the books they purchase, how they're being checked out, are they being used? Where is the reporting of our school library? And I'm not saying that as negative, I'm a big supporter of the library, but at what point do we as a board say, how's the library doing? How's the books being checked out? Is that the best use of the funds that we're putting in there? Is there some sort of procedure?
Yes, there is. I'm not sure that that's
It's not right.
business ops,
Exactly.
but let me answer the question the best I can. I know that the library each year does a couple of things. One, she reads books to make sure that we're getting rid of books that are back there who was in Fortran computer in the 50s and 60s. Beyond that, she's done studies for us that give us a sense of which books are being taken out, and which magazines and periodicals are. And also, the sort of usage. I know that Dr. Hunter has approved a couple of days' work this summer for the library to do what she considers to be curriculum planning, where she's basically going to do reading, looking at the books, and doing exactly the sort of thing that you're asking. The librarians have traditionally done that with both principals. Now, it's one librarian between 2 schools who does a form of that. So I don't get a formal report of it, but I do get a sense of who takes magazines out, which magazines should we drop because students aren't using them anymore. When you worked at Mendham, you know that I was the one that would request commentary every month. And you know that they said I was the only one reading it for a while, and they think that they may want to drop that. So that sort of thing happens. So they do get those reports. And I don't think Doug gets a qualitative part of it in the way that you're asking, but the librarian does provide that to the principals. And they talk to them.
There's also one of the databases the teachers and the librarian both feel cost us a significant amount of money, and I know that they are tracking which databases the kids use, and one of them they came to me and said, please drop this one.
Do you remember the name of that?
I can't remember now. I can't remember.
Okay.
But, and the other one is, as a librarian, sometimes usage isn't what you look at. You really want to look at how it matches with the curriculum. I'm not saying you don't always look at usage, because if something's only used once, but a lot of times you want to increase usage, so you might still buy something and funnel the teachers toward it. We have a very, I think Kate's I know she's a very conscientious person about what she's ordering and what she's looking at, and I think you probably feel the same way. But I do think maybe we could look a little bit again at usage in the sense that how are books going out? Because we all know about high school kids don't always have a lot of time to read.
To go online mostly to.
Right, that's.
Do we need to still be purchasing books?
Books, right.
Yes.
So that's a.
Yes, we do.
I think that's the piece that I would like to see.
Okay. And then my other issue very, very small, but when we have the Association of School Girls Softball Coaches, at what point do we ever evaluate whether that's a good thing to belong to? Where's the background information, or is it just every year we just do it?
I can tell you that for some of those organizations, we need to belong to them so that the students can be recognized at a county and a state level. So there is a sense that we need to belong so that when students move on or get recognized at end of year competition, that allows them to do it.
If you have other, questions, not just philosophical ones, but questions about a payment or something like that you can call Dr. Mary? Before,
today.
okay, before board meeting.
Many more than that.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Number 8.
Okay.
On page 3. I have a motion, please.
So moved.
Tom? Second? Marcia? Discussion.
Again, that was me. I noticed that Mr.
Mochia.
Sorry, is a third-year teacher. He's going out for IB training in July. And I know that this was briefly discussed at the last meeting in the public session, but what is our protocol for training? And I'm going to take notes this time, so remember, for training IB teachers, has he been teaching an IB class and just now getting the training? Is that the way it works, or sometimes, I'm just curious, how does that happen?
You know that I responded to you today and said that it differs, and it differs on circumstances. So for instance, there are some teachers that teach certain IB courses where the training is offered very, very rarely. In some of those cases, we've had teachers who have already been trained in the school work with those people, or we've sent those teachers informally to places like the United Nations School. IB, according to your question to me today, does IB have a set policy on this? They don't. IB allows you a degree of flexibility regarding what training should be. So we've done our best to try to make sure that we get training in places where we know that the training is good and it's done at a reasonable cost. So for instance, we try when we can to use IB training at UNIS, the United Nations International School in New York, which is on 24th Street. The reason we do that is we know that they are very, very good trainers, and the costs are minimal in terms of sending people. There was a year that we did psychology training, where there was a training that was offered in a remote geographic location in the United States. It may have been Colorado, and it was also offered in Scotland. And it turned out we got cheaper flights to Scotland. So people said to us, my God, you're sending someone to Scotland for that training. Well, we did simply because it was cheaper. In Mr. Roche's case, he is not teaching pre-IB courses at the moment. But we try to train people when they are teaching courses when they are facing an exam. We don't always get to do that. So you've got some teachers in some areas where that hasn't happened every time, but next year Mr. Moshe will be moving up where students in the junior and senior year would face the possibility of HL or SL examinations, and that's why we do it. At the very beginning of our IB experience, we trained teachers in anticipation, which was a huge mistake. So we wound up sending teachers off for training, and they didn't teach a course that was facing a test for a year or so before that. And when that happened, they came back and said, but I forgot everything, because I'm not doing it, I'm not meeting it at this moment. So we don't train in anticipation ever anymore. But we do train where we can, when we can, based on the different criteria that we're given.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Any abstentions? Business officer number 15 on page 4. I have a motion. Second? Tom? Discussion. Marcia?
Garden State Coalition of Schools, again, the same sort
Garden State Coalition of Schools is an organization of like-minded schools. It's headed by Lynn Strickland. The last president was Superintendent Jim O'Neill from Chatham. And it is an organization that does advocacy, both legal advocacy and training for people, and it tries to take schools like us and have a voice for them in Trenton. So that there are various meetings that the Garden State Coalition of Schools runs each year where there are legal updates and policy updates. I was at one on Wednesday, in fact, in Jamesburg of last week, where the speakers were Senator Tom Kane, Declan O'Scanlan, Assemblyman Bagnon, and another person, and then a number of members of the press. And they gave members of the Garden State Coalition of Schools an update on legal actions that were upcoming, pension reform, healthcare reform, in addition to charter school issues and a variety of other issues. They're a very strong voice for schools like us. They provide training, they provide advocacy, and it's an alternative. It was felt that urban schools had a League of Urban Schools that was their voice. Garden State Coalition of Schools became a voice for districts like us. I think that the money that is involved in belonging is very, very well spent in the sense that we support their advocacy and we get training and information out of it.
And that's not something that teachers and school boards provide?
No, it is, well, it is in addition to, and in some cases, better than what school boards provide, simply because they are so focused, and they're actually very, very well respected. To have gotten the majority and minority leaders of both sides of the aisle together on a dais to speak about those issues was an accomplishment that they themselves recognized last Wednesday.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Any abstentions? Personnel number 4 on page 8. I have a motion. Second? Discussion.
Again, I brought this up with them, because I just want to make sure that, I know Pat Erlano worked at College and Career. Is that opportunity dismantled, or what's the next step in that?
The reason for this is that for Pat applying to move to the position of administrative assistant in the Office of Special Services is essentially a promotion for her. It's a different job, it's a different line to move from where she is right now. So she applied for that job and was enthusiastically supported by both Dr. Lee and Mr. Mattias. She will be transitioning to that job at the end of June and the beginning of July. The college placement office will not be closing. We'll simply fill that position with someone else, and there are people who are already interested in applying.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Any abstentions? And personnel number 20 on page 13, top. Have a motion?
Should move it with the amendment, and I don't think these folks know what the amendment is at this point in time. That should not read an increase of 3 hours, that should read an increase of 1.5 hour per day, as opposed to 3 hours per day. It was an oversight on my part when we put this together. We were trying to replicate what we were doing at Mendham with our facilities to monitor there. And so we made it 3 hours, but the principal had only requested 1.5 hour per day. It should, just one additional half hour per day, so it should read that way as opposed to 3 hours.
At Mendham, it was an additional 3 hours per day.
Before Mr. Asking,